So welcome to today's event. Well, actually the main body of the event just now was the appetizer, now is the main course. Discover stable team and emergency procedure. So agenda for today, very simple, opening announcement from 5 minutes become 25 minutes. We are very bad at time boxing as you can see, but let's move on from that. The main body of today's will be actually discover stable team and emergency procedure, which will be covered and anchored by Adrian, as Joshua rightly mentioned just now. And lastly, we have some sort of a participant feedback and closing session for us to have a discussion, have a chat, understand what's good, what's not good, how can we improve ourselves in the spirit of Scrum. So just one thing to know, this session will be recorded for quality purposes, yeah? Okay, so if you're not, how should I put it? If you are not comfortable with being live recorded like this, do let us know and we can figure out something about it. So first up, Scrum community footprints. Like the founding members mentioned just now, we formed earlier in the year, but I'm just gonna show the recent highlights from from August till now. We've come up with 3 or 4 different playbooks. We've held an open space technology session, which is chartering 2022 roadmap. And today, which is now, as of this exact moment, we are about 490 members. So if you want to check out, we actually have a YouTube link, like tinyurl.com/Scrum Mastery YouTube. And it's, I believe it has all the previous event videos that were recorded as well. So effectively what we're trying to do here is trying to write playbooks, trying to share with people a project language of highly effective teams, which is essentially Scrum. So Dr. Jeff Sutherland, who is the co-creator of Scrum, actually believes that this Scrum pattern sequence can lift any or most teams off to a good start and help the best teams be even better. So in previous increments, we've actually covered topics number 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, so on and so forth. And in this sprint, we will be covering stable teams and emergency procedure. If you do need to leave early, there is a feedback form you can fill in here, or you can just scan the URL and it will bring you to the feedback form as well. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to pass the time on to Adrian, who will be sharing with us stable team and emergency procedure. Adrian, please.
All right, thanks, Austin. So let's start off with stable team. So I believe everybody heard of what stable team is, so I should not delve too much. But what I want to take this opportunity to share with you is actually our understanding of what stable team is as part of Scrum pattern. So a lot of people talk about, stable team is teams that have been producing product for some time, which is you can see on the map. But if you really were to deep dive at a deeper level, what stable team really means is stakeholders are happier with teams who can meet the expectation in a timely fashion so that the team can do what's necessary to reduce variance in its prediction. So what we're looking at in layman's terms, that means teams that don't have much changes. That means people coming in, coming out, right? So that we can build up the culture, we can build up the atmosphere, the skill sets that required. So earlier on we talked about T-shape, or if you heard in the earlier sharing session about T-shape, how do you form T-shaped teams? How do you go about it? In order to meet the condition of a T-shaped team, is you need the team to be stable enough so that you can nurture, you can grow the team members at an individual level and also at a team level, right? So can I go on to the next slide, please? All right, so when we talk about stable team, actually there's 3 building blocks or 3 domains that we want to look at. First, we look at capacity and predictability, right? Because at the end of the day, right, let's be realistic. Let's be honest with ourselves. We have stakeholders to meet. We have project sponsors, right? When I talk about stakeholders, it could be internal, external. They want some form of patterns that it can predict. Why? Because they're humans, right? Just like in real life, we want to know, okay, when the bus arrives, when my Grab car will arrive, when can I go to school, when, especially for people who are married with kids, your kids ask, hey, Papa, Mama, when can we be there? When can we reach the playground? When, right? We need some form of predictability, right? So that's why you can see on the top left-hand corner. Next is moderate track number. We're like thinking, oh, what is moderate track number? I haven't heard of it. So let us share with you what is this all about at a later slide, yeah? So next, which is product and team pride, right? When having a team that is stable, is matured enough, you start to build the pride. Yeah, team members are happy. They are proud of the product they're doing. They are proud of the team members, right? So these are the 3 things that we look at when we're doing stable team, right? So can I move on to the next slide? So first, we talk about capacity and predictability, right? So what do we mean by that? We're talking about teams know their capacity, who can help businesses, or sometimes we call organizations, to have some form of predictability, right? Especially if you're working in a very big MNC, you have a PMO office, or I need to know who is in this team, who is these people in this department, who are the people, what are they doing, and stuff like that, right? Because we are human, we are curious in nature, all right? And how do we apply that in Scrum patterns, or when you're working in an agile organization? Actually, you can use this thing called velocity, right? So for agile practitioners who have heard of velocity, right, it's a form of number of story points that are completed over 3 to 4 sprints, right? So velocity itself can be a form of measurement, a form of improvement. However, a lot of people who doesn't have this agile thinking, or who are not experienced enough, realize that, oh, it's just numbers, right? I can just put in numbers, put in more people, I cannot finish, I put in numbers. It does not help, right? By having a stable team, it helps to create a velocity. Why? For instance, if you have team members keep moving in and out, you need to consider about things like about the knowledge transfer, the time for the experience or the old guys, right, in the team to share their knowledge to these team members. When they are doing that, they're not producing any tickets, they're not producing any outcome or business outcome, things like that. So that is why having a stable team is very important if you want to have a velocity, not just by swapping team members back and forth. That is not the kind of spirit you're looking at. Yeah. So this is what I mentioned in the third point, right? Having the same team members over a longer duration. However, a lot of HR, a lot of management, PMO, C-suites, right? Say, oh, or finance, oh, just with people, right? They know, right? They're developers, they should know it. No, it takes time. Yeah. So that is the intent of having a stable team. So Austin, can I have the next slide, please? Right. So earlier, next we talk about moderate track number. So this must be very confusing. Adrian, what is moderate track number? So it's one of the organization patterns. So we have Scrum patterns. There's also something called organizational patterns. Of course, I do not want to delve too much of what organization pattern is, the history of it, what it's all about. But if you were to look at the Scrum patterns closer, right, a closer look, it's actually there's one thing we talk about under stability, it's called the moderate track number. All right, what does it mean? So you can see in the second and third point is to help the team to grow and to share its expertise. So earlier on, I mentioned about having a T-shape, right? So having a stable team, you can build up capabilities, the skill set, be it soft skill, the technical skills, right, over time. And when you have that, you don't have to worry about, oh, what happens one or two of my team members were to leave. No, because you already build up the knowledge over time, co-creating the knowledge together. So in the event that one person were to resign or leave the team for whatever reason it is, the knowledge still retains within the team, right? So this is where we talk about the last point, the third point, is build a culture of shared knowledge that increase the breadth over time that can be taught, right, or conveyed. Right? So that is why having a stable team is very important. And of course, the question is, Adrian, how long are we looking at? Are you looking at 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It depends on the project you're with, the skill sets, the team members you have. So I can't say, oh, stable team will take about 3 months, 6 months. It could even take 2 years. Depends on the industry, the project, the team members. Because imagine if all your team members are fresh grads, what would happen? It will take more time. Yeah. All right, so Austin, can I move on to the next slide? And next, right, the next building block, we talk about product and team pride. So let me go through the product pride first, because both, even though they are pride, but they're referring to 2 different things. Product pride means a team that builds a collective identity. Imagine when you build a good rapport and support within a team, you're proud of your team, you are proud of product, and sometimes you want to challenge the product owner or the management. Okay, what product are we doing? What is the business value? What benefits? So that is why you can see there's 3 circles at the bottom, which is the purpose. Then as you build up your team members, you have the autonomy, self-selecting, self-organizing. And of course, through time, you keep practicing, right? Practicing makes perfect. That's where your mastery will come in. So this is what we talk about product pride. You challenge, right? At the start, you will know, okay, try and find out what is this product I'm building. But over time, you start challenge, is this a product fit? Does this product fit the market that we are trying to resolve? Is there a gap? And stuff like that. That is what we talk about product pride. Right? Imagine you're building a product over 5 years, 4 years. You have some sort of pride, some form of esteem that say, no, I believe in what it is. Right? This is what we talk about product pride. And if we were to move to the right, which is the team pride, again, it's just one of the organization patterns. Yeah, so that's how we talk about moderate trunk number. Now we talk about team pride, which is another form of organization patterns. And this is scientifically proven, right? People feel more confident when they're successful, right? When they feel good, they feel very successful. Just like us, like humans, when you start having small wins, you feel more confident. As you feel more confident, your risk appetite increase. As your risk appetite increase, you have more pride in the team members, right? So this is why you see the last sentence, confidence breeds success, but success creates confidence. So it's a dual exchange, right? It's like an infinity loop, right? So this is why we have team pride. You're proud of a team. Next, why stable team? So it doesn't want to talk about the what it's all about, the importance, but why stable team, right? Focus, right? People get distracted and they can worry about it. Imagine you have in a team that keep having people coming out. You also be worried, hey, what is this product I'm working on? Why am I having a constant change of team members? You tend to lose focus. You start to think about, hey, shucks, am I in a shitty project? You start to ask your managers, talk to your HR, and we have that mindset, we have time taken away. You tend to lose focus. Why? Because as humans in general, we can't multitask, right? So we can't multitask. So next is also try and bring down the barriers. First, imagine all of us are coming together to work for a single product, a single feature. Yeah, but it takes time for us to know the person who I'm working with, who are my team members, right? How well are they a fast learner? Are they slow learner? Do they need someone that need to handheld them? All right, so all this takes time. Right? This is what I call the intangible, right? The barrier, especially if your team members come from different aspects of the world. All right, maybe let's say you're in Asia and you have a team member who come from, let's say, North America or Europe. They have different way of working in terms of communication, not just working, but in terms of communication and even understanding the terms or the lingos that the team is based at. Right? So this is why we call bring down the barriers. Barriers can be communication, psychology barrier. And next, which also ties in with the first aspect, which is focus, is to reassure. Because if you keep changing team members, you also be very panicked. You have this anxiety with them, as I mentioned earlier. Hey, am I in is this project a dying project? And they just throw people in and try to salvage the project as much as possible. Right? You build that anxiety. When you have anxiety, you tend to be nervous. And you're nervous, you can't perform as well as what you expected. So that is why stable team is very, very important. These are the 3 main building blocks. Yes? All right. So what happens if you have an unstable team? As I mentioned, right, you have administrative, right? You keep doing a lot of, especially for organization who is doing timesheet. I know timesheet, I have overhead, right? To calculate, okay, what timesheet you need to go in, what WS element codes. And most importantly, which I meant, what I like to highlight, which is the second point, which is efficiency, right? What we call is knowledge transfer. It takes time for new team members or newly onboarded team members to master the skill set, especially if the product or the industry they are working in is very niche. It's not easily replicated in other industry or in other companies, right? It takes time, right? Because you have a steep learning curve. So during that period of time, do expect your efficiency to drop because your experienced team members are bringing up their team level skill sets, right? And not only that, what happens is you keep throwing numbers in or throw head counts or resources, or the term that HR doing. Let's throw head count, throw people in. You need to know there's something called the Brooks Law, right? It takes time for people to level up, even though you give them the opportunity, the platform, to learn, to know, to understand, it takes time. And not only that, there's a lot of communication overhead. I need to liaise with this, I need to liaise with that. Because imagine if you're having a team member is being transferred from another project within the same organization to this project. You need to communicate with the managers, or when do they need to hand over, need to do a takeover. And more importantly, which is the third point, adding people to a highly diversified task, which is very common in a working environment. When one person leaves, you tend to, I hire another person, be a contract or perm staff. And if the person is not enough, or the person is not capable, we add more people. We just keep adding them. That's not what we want. It's not about quantity, it's about the quality of work. Yeah. So this is what happens if team members are unstable. So shall we move on to the next slide, Steve? All right. So these are the reference. So definitely we will share all these materials with you, but this is a quick recap of what stable team is, one of the Scrum patterns, right? And this is all the reference that we have gathered and make it in point form. All right. So next, so earlier on we talked about one of the Scrum pattern, which is stable team. Next, we'll move on to emergency procedure. Some of us call it stop the line. It refers to the same thing. Right, when you talk about emergency procedure, stop the line, it refers. So what is this emergency procedure? You say, oh, what is that? What is this emergency? It sounds very harsh, sounds very, distractive. Yes. So emergency procedure is when the team is all going off track, or they have a major hurdle that, hey, sucks, I cannot meet my sprint goal, I cannot complete the user stories, or I cannot complete most of the story points. What should I do? So this is where you can apply emergency procedure. All right. And most importantly, a lot of teams that we have observed, or at least I have observed, is great teams tend to use emergency procedure and do it without informing the PO and ask for the PO's forgiveness later. Why? Because at the end of the day, we are here to deliver a business outcome. We are here to business outcome, nothing else. Yeah. So Austin, shall we move on to the next slide and deep dive? So what is emergency procedure? Where can we use it or execute it? So you can see there are actually quite a few building blocks. In fact, there's about 8 of them. So it could be when you have technical problems, previous work is not done, it means not fulfilling the DoD definition of done. Lots of critical people, right? Earlier on, we talked about stable team. Imagine you have a team of 5 developers, Scrum Master and PO, and suddenly, these 5 developers, 3 decided to tender or leave, or perhaps have to redeploy to a critical project within an organization. What happens? How can I complete the initial sprint backlog with the story points? So I can apply an emergency procedure. Or one of the patterns, right, that we have published at the start, which is the yesterday's weather, you overestimate. How can I manage that? Right? You can see on the bottom right. Or some emerging requirement along the way, right? Because Scrum Agile is about iterating, pivoting along the way. How do I do that? You can use emergency procedure. Management, right? Management tend to like to interfere. You can use that. Or unplanned interruption, also one of the Scrum patterns that we have published in our earlier playbook, which I would not want to explain any further, but feel free to read our articles on Medium. And also, what happens if the product owner changed the backlog halfway through, right? Then how can we do about it? You can apply the emergency procedure. Yeah, so these are the few 8 scenarios that you can consider when the team wants to apply emergency procedure. But do bear in mind, all right, which is teams should always look out, right? Don't wait for the last minute. So imagine yourself, you're in a team, you're 2 sprint. You don't wait till the end of the last week, end of the second week, start to do emergency procedure. You can from time to time periodically look up, hey, are we still on track? Can we still meet our sprint goal? It's very, very important. That's what you can see. We should avoid executing at the end, right? So it's about iterating along the way. So hence, when you're working in a Scrum team, it's very important to show the burn down chart, or in some cases, burn up chart. Like, hey, guys, are we still on track? Can we meet our goal? If not, what can we do? What can we mitigate? Do we need to apply emergency procedures? Yes, right? So this is a quick description of when can you apply emergency procedure. So Austin, can I have? Yes. And how does it look like? That's the next question. All right. So earlier on, you talked about what kind of scenario. How does it look like? But how can I apply emergency period? This is what this slide is about. First, we can talk about reduce the scope. For instance, right, you have X number of tickets. Can we reduce the scope in each ticket or reduce the number of tickets the team is currently consuming in the current sprint? That could be one. Next, which is the most drastic, right? Abort the sprint and replan. Right, that is very, very, very drastic. Of course, you get everybody jump, including the hey, why do we need to abort sprint and replan? Right, so you need to think of the scenario, the situation in what is the best way to do that. Next, also can be informing management how the emergency affects. What this building block in yellow means is, okay, you can tell the guys or your management that, hey, with the current pace, I don't think I can finish in X number of days. However, with X plus Y days, we should be able to finish it. Things like that, right? You can push back the release date. At least they are aware, rather than keeping right back. Remember earlier on, we talked about if the team is running a 2-week sprint, don't apply emergency procedure at the end of the second last week, right? Periodically review the burnout chart. Yeah, and if you look at the blue building block on the left, change the team how it does work. Do something different. It could be getting another team to help you to offload, right? You could be hiring another team. There's many ways, right? So this is what the blue building block is all about. Change the way the team does the work. Or maybe we can reduce the number of acceptance criteria, which ties down in the green block, which is reducing the scope. Yes? And why do we say reducing scope? Because so that the team can finish whatever work at a minimum level rather than not showing anything, right? Not showing anything is a failed sprint. You need to show at least something. It doesn't matter it's perfect, as long as it's working or even work in progress, that is fine. Because again, what is Scrum about? The 3 pillars, right? Transparency, inspect, and adapt. We inspect, we adapt along the way. We pivot if need be in the worst case scenario. So it's about being transparent and make full use of what we can with what we have at our hand. So this is what it's all about. All right, so Austin, can I have the next slide? So why? Why do we want to do it? You ask, why do you do it? It sounds very drastic. It's all about Kaizen. It's trying to make things or make problems visible, right? It's about making it visible. And not just visible to the team, but to organization. When we talk about organization, it could be a middle management, it could be top management, it could be your internal stakeholders. If you're working in insurance, like some of you mentioned, insurance, you have governance, you got so on and so forth, right? So it's about making impediments visible. Hey guys, this is a situation. We want to share with you what are the hurdles, and we want to work with you to address these hurdles. And most importantly, which I always agree with this saying, no problem is a problem, right? You can't always say, hey, there's no problem. All of us are agile practitioners. We're here to always continuously improve, right? So having no problem is a problem. It could be a Scrum Master problem, it could be a product owner problem, whatever it is, no problem is a problem, right? It's always here about iterative. It's about making continuous improvement. And as I mentioned, right, Kaizen is about being transparent about solving problem. All right, and especially new teams or new team members or even team members who are fresh grad, they don't like to make problems visible. Why? Because it affect the performance, affect the perception of them, affect the perhaps their retirement, whatever it is, it tends to affect because we like to hide our problem. People in general like to hide their problem unless they are being asked. Else we don't like to share our problems. But this is not how an agile team should be. It should be we're open about it. We showcase what is the problem. Remember, one of the 5 Scrum values is about openness, right? And next is about the courage to say the right thing, right? So hence you say you don't want to stop work and so on. Because people in general doesn't like to receive criticisms or negative feedback. It looks bad on them, especially for employees in Singapore, right? When your performance review is up or it's around the corner, like 3 months before, we like to hide the problems underneath the carpet so that it looks great. We get a bigger fat increment, bigger fat bonus, whatever it is. We like to hide until when we receive, they say, oh, these are the problems. No, this is not should be the way. That should not be the way. So this is why emergency procedure is trying to make problems visible so that organization and the people needs to solve it, have ample time and will know firsthand rather than hide the problem. right? Next, right? Team is also able to respond to changes in a discipline and even want to push and challenge even in the fastest time possible. All right. If this trains team to focus on success and try to remove impediments, the longer you hide the impediment will get larger, just like a technical debt. Right. The longer you drag and defer, you're going to face a lot of hurdles downstream. That's not what we want. All right. And not only that, by having emergency procedure, you also increase the chance to deliver a product, because at the end of the day, it's about business outcome, right? As I mentioned in my previous slide, it's about delivering business outcome. And what do we mean by business outcome in this context? It's about delivering a potential shippable product increment, or PI for short. You need to produce something. It doesn't matter whether, as I mentioned, fully functional is half, just showcase. At least we know. Then based on what we have seen, what we have observed, we pivot and iterate along the way. That is most important. This is what we are looking at. We are not looking at perfectionists. We are not looking at it has to be perfect. Else, then my question to you is, then why are you doing in a Scrum? Why you want to work in an agile organization? There's no difference between this and SDLC and waterfall man. There's no difference. Yeah. So this is why the importance of having emergency procedure. Yeah. Okay, next, can I have the next slide? And next, these are the resources that we have gathered. So of course, your next question asks agent. So I heard, okay, what stable team is, what emergency procedure is. So what's next? So I'd like to invite you, right, at towards the end of the session, if you're interested to join us, feel free to fill out a survey form, right? We'll put in the chat layer. Then we will reach out to you, right? So we have come to the 2 Scrum patterns, right? Stable team and emergency procedure, as you can see, is still in progress. And whatever, for those joiners who just join us, we, Scrum Mastery community has really released a playbook for each Scrum patterns. And if you're interested, you can click on the link. No worries, we'll be sharing both the recordings and the PowerPoint slides with your guys so that you can click on it. So if you don't mind, also can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah. So once you have applied all these Scrum patterns, including stable team and emergency procedure that we have mentioned, what's next? What is the effect? Then there's this effect, I'm not going to call teams that finish early accelerate faster. All right. So what do we mean by that? Teams that finish early accelerate faster. Wow, it looks quite complicated. Actually, it's not. If the team that you're working with, the Scrum team or squads or tribe, whatever term the organization use, if they apply all the patterns consciously, subconsciously, then what we will say is a team that has finished early, accelerate faster. What do I mean? It means you take less work into a sprint, you aim for a less ambitious sprint goal, and the team that finished the sprint, you accelerate faster. What do I mean? Let us deep dive in the next few slides. All right. So first, let us look at the other side of the coin. How does a team struggle to meet when the sprint goal looks like, far-fetched? First, teams often take too much work and cannot finish it, right? As humans, we tend to be very greedy, ambitious, right? Then what happens? Scrum team management feel unhappy, right? Imagine you're saying that, okay, my team is going to take 100 user stories with 500 story points. Wow, it looks good. But you always remember, guys and girls, what happens if you cannot deliver 75% of it, or even 100 user stories with 100 user story points? The management will be unhappy. You say, hey, I thought you all guys wanted that you all can deliver. What happens? Why you're not meeting? Right, that is where the second column, right? Why you're not meeting? There's a lot of conflicts. There will be a lot of politics. There's a lot of pinpoint of blames. It's your fault and whatnot, or your stories. But they fail to realize that by doing so, the team members, or we call it the delivery team in certain organization, will feel overburdened, under pressure. Oh, you can't consume all this finish. As I mentioned earlier, you have 100 user stories in the first sprint. You can't finish. You have finished all 100 user stories. You left about, let's say, 20 user stories. A lot of times, management say, oh, you bring these 20 user stories over the next sprint and do it together. And what happens in terms of the psychology in terms of how the team must feel. They feel burdened, like, oh shucks, I have another baggage. And they feel under pressure. And over time, they feel demotivated, demoralized, right? Because they know that I can now finish. No matter how fast I want to do, I can now finish. So I just slow down. Because if I finish at this pace, at 20%, 40%, 60%, I will know that I can now finish. So I just do as much as I can. And in worst scenario, these people will quit. Right? When people start to quit, your velocity change because you are doing at a very low cadence, I would say, right? Then this is how a team will struggle. So it is very important to apply all your Scrum patterns subconsciously. If not, these are the scenario. And this is only first part. Let's move on to the next part. All right. So we talk about demoralizing management, not aligned, teams feel burdened. And not only that, you have to look at the other side of the coin. The team, the Scrum team, will not have the opportunity to reduce, to resolve, right, technical debt. Right? We talk about business side, the business side, but how about the technical aspect, the quality of the code? Because you always keep grinding and churning in new stuff, but you don't have time to reflect on how do I resolve technical debt. That's very important because if you don't clean up technical debt, the team will not have the opportunity to refactor the code. They do not know how to improve. Hence, that's why we mentioned in the second block, prevents the team from improving. Right? You always need to refactor the code, but you don't have the time. How the team is going to refactor, how the team is going to improve themselves, improve in terms of the technical aspect. Right? And hence, that is why you're bringing to the bottom left-hand block, which is the one in red. Team does not have time to think clearly how to improve its work. And most probably will have to work that is partially done in the next sprint. So you're going to multi-track, multi-threading. Can we multitask? No, in humans in general don't multitask very well. Right? Yes, there are some exceptional cases where people can multi-thread, right, very well. You can do multiple things at the same time, but in general, people are not. And next, which is the one in the bottom right-hand corner, the one in yellow, market pressure and low velocity. You make the product owner desperate. Because why? Because in an organization settings, right, when a team is not delivering, who tends to take the blame and the responsibility when they're engaging with stakeholders? Stakeholders can be internal, external. It's the product owner. Right? Hey guys, we need to deliver, and we start chunking in more use stories. More use stories. Guys, come on, become a turnout factory, producing. And this is where what happens. This computes the problem and decelerate. Because they will know they can never finish. They will never finish, and they just continue what it is. This is what happens when the team is not using the various Scrum patterns subconsciously, right? So this is what the last two, or this slide and the previous slide is all about. Yes. All right. So of course, on the other hand, what happens if the team is able to accelerate? Remember, we talked about this is the last Scrum patterns on the knock-on effect. When teams finish early, accelerate faster. First, they take less work. Right? Earlier, I talk about quality. It's not about quantity, it's the quality. They take less works than the previous sprint and aim for less ambitious goal. Right? And they use this pattern called yesterday's weather, right, to estimate, right? Earlier on, we talked about one of the building blocks for stable team is capacity, right? So you can use this Scrum pattern called yesterday's weather to predict your capacity in terms of how many people in the team in the next sprint, how many stories or story points, and also implement the enormous non-interval. It's another Scrum pattern. In case, because it's very common in real life where suddenly there is a new use story that pop up that we need to do. Can be someone that that was arrowed from other team that the team will need us to do. How do you buffer for that? How the team accommodate these additional news stories with story points because it affects the velocity. So if the team are using these three building blocks, then I would say they're on the right track. And next, can I have the next slide, Austin? And not only that, the next three will be if the team is able to finish the use stories that was initially agreed, in less than a sprint, they can continue bringing new user stories from the next sprint to the current sprint. Yes, and not only that, they can also apply scrumming the scrum, and to find out, okay, what are the problems that we need to solve? Maybe earlier on we have a saying, no problem is a problem. We need to keep always improving ourselves. What is the bottleneck? Is it in terms of process, in terms of skill sets, in terms of what? Right? So if the team member apply this scrumming, the scrum, which is one of the scrum patterns, the team will help to iterate faster, will finish product at a faster rate. And not only that, which is last building block, which is putting the Kaizen in the sprint backlog. That means you have things like automation testing, when we talk about acceptance testing, for the next sprint has top priority. So if all these 6 building blocks, then if the team, sorry, let me rephrase, if the teams were to iterate fast, finish early and iterate fast, these are the building blocks or the behaviors that the team members will exhibit. Yes. All right. So Austin, can I have the next slide, please? All right. So this is just a quick summarize on where the reference are, and you can use this as a reference points. Again, as just mentioned, this Scrum patterns only works, or I should say unlock, when the team subconsciously apply the other Scrum patterns first. This Scrum pattern, which is teams that finish early and iterate faster, will not come out first. It will be an after on effect. Yes. All right. So next, can I have the next slide, please? All right. So now we have come towards to the end of the presentation on 2 Scrum patterns, which is stable team and emergency procedures. So if your guys would be, helpful for us, is to do a QR code. There's a quick survey. And of course, if you like, we also can always paste the URL or the form to help us to see where the areas that we can improve on. And of course, the most important is if you're interested to be part of our Scrum team, to come up with a playbook for both stable team and emergency procedure, feel free to fill out the survey form so that we can reach out to you, right? Because the next step after today's session is we're going to have 2 Scrum teams and come out the playbook for these 2 Scrum patterns. What you have here and see is a high level appreciation of what is this about. And we will take it offline and, scrutinize, build the meat to it. Because right now what you see is the skeleton of it. Yep. So without further ado, if you guys have any question, you can unmute yourself and start asking questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Adrian, for presenting to us stable team and emergency procedure. So like what Adrian mentioned, I think if you have questions, if you have further questions, I see that the chat's been quite lively all the way. So if you have further questions, just feel free to post on the chat. I see Sunwa has just posted a question. Early accelerate faster equal better quality deliverables. So you want to do you want to clarify what you actually want to accentuate with the question? Like what are you actually asking us?
Maybe I follow the sequence of my question. I think the first question was answered. If everybody reading the question, the second one was about what does it take to establish a stable team. I think that, that is probably if Adrian could share your thought.
All right. So I have answers to it, but I will not give it to you. Why? It's because the next step is for each of us, each of the Scrum team, right? The Scrum team for building the playbook increment for stable team and emergency way to find out what it takes to build a stable team. And we will work together as a team. So that's what hence I mentioned, I will just give you the skeleton, a high level, what's stability. But what it takes to create, this is something that will be part of our playbook. And if you're interested and you have long experience, I would like to encourage you to join the team to build the knowledge.
Sure. And then I also have a question about the early accelerate faster. Does it mean better quality in the deliverables? Because faster sounds like cycle time.
Okay, when we say accelerate faster, it could also mean better quality. Of course, you need to talk about, do the team perform automated testing and whatnot? Is it part of the definition of done? So if you ask me right now, when the team accelerate faster means they have really fulfilled definition of done. And if the team if the team has considered testing or automated testing in the best case as part of definition, then yes, you will definitely answer your questions.
I think let me also echo on a bit to Adrian's point. Teams that accelerate faster, right? Not necessarily just in terms of velocity, but actually in terms of value deliverance, right? Because in the end, it's no point doing work faster, but if you're doing the wrong work. With Scrum, with Agile, this kind of stuff, you always want to do the right work right the first time. So that's how all the different Scrum patterns can help the team achieve that, to increase not just velocity, but also actual value deliverance to the business.
Yep, I think that's you phrase it better. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't think it's just automation. Yeah.
No,
it's more on the value delivered to the customer, like what? Yeah. Maybe that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, course, Scrum has a lot of links to Lean, so that's where a lot of it is inspired from lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I also want to add on that, Soma, right? I haven't seen a product that is bug free. So even though when you're doing this, doesn't mean or we are giving the impression that it's totally bug free. No, we are not giving the impression.
Oh, yeah. That's why I put a word called almost.
Yeah. So if you're looking at bug free, I don't think this is the pattern because I haven't seen a pattern or at least a technique that doesn't have a bug or a deficit in their product or services.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for the question, Sunwa. Anyone else has any other questions that they would like to share with the team here?
No, perhaps maybe I would like to invite everybody to unmute and turn on their video.
Okay, then I stop sharing. Yeah, I stop sharing.
Perhaps we can do stop sharing and.
I just got a question. Adrian mentioned about the 6 building blocks, right? Has anyone encountered a team that has the 6 building blocks? Achieved? No, that's why that's why we are still around as a Scrum Masters, Agile coach.
It takes time. Yeah, it takes time. How about the rest? I'm also very interested to hear from the rest because we've been speaking quite a fair bit, isn't it?
Yeah, lah, Adrian.
Yeah, talk too much, I guess.
Always you.
It's my fault lah. 讲话太多 speak too much.
Lucky or not, your SM.
Oh.
Is there any more feedbacks from the floor?
Okay, in 3, 2, 1. All right. So I guess given the eerie silence, there are not much questions left to be answered. So I would like to draw everyone's attention to the chat where we actually posted the survey link a bit earlier. If you could help us fill it in, that would be really good, so that we can also understand who's going to be coming on board and supporting us with creating the playbooks in both stable team and emergency procedure.
Question here, I'm Jamie, right? For the forms survey, because early on I already select my team, do I need to submit again?
No need.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if not, then any last words from the founder / senior members? Technically founder. The other founder not here anymore.
Co-founder, you mean? Founder is only there's a co-founder.
Left the meeting. Part-time.
Yeah, maybe Celine want to start first, Celine or Alicia's or Kenneth.
Right. I think I actually echo Adrian. Please join us in producing the playbook. That's where you can get the a lot of your deeper question being answered together with the team. Sunwa, Bitin, Yeah, those questions is actually along the way while you are writing the playbook, you are brainstorming with the team member, and you will get the things out of it.
What we are looking for here is really the actual experiences, not just theories and maybe just even coming from a single person. So when we write something, it should be a collective collection, or it's a collection of all our experiences here, which one worked best, and we'll be sharing our experiences here. So it's not just really a theory and some baseless write-up. So we want it to be really empirical and yeah, based on real experience from everyone who will be joining here. And for those who haven't had any experience, you can always relate it to our actual experience if we are not really from Agile or, for example, from lean manufacturing, but we always have this yeah, we are social beings and we can always relate something there. So that's from my part. So we really invite you to come and join with us and share and learn together in this community.
Yep. Thanks, Kenneth. So I think just be on the logistics side. I think like what Adrian mentioned just now, our team usually meets up for a little bit of time every week, maybe 1 hour, half an hour, or something like that. Usually it's on Mondays. So for those people who are coming on board together with us, right? We will be meeting on 22nd of November, roughly around 8 p.m. More details will be shared a bit further down the pipeline. But don't worry, you will get the information before the meeting itself, not after the meeting itself. That would be really, really pointless.
Yeah. And we're still adjusting, by the way, that it's coming to December and a lot of us might be, so this every Monday, especially in December, might not be really true always. So so don't worry. Yeah, for those people, especially celebrating the year-end celebrations, it's not really every Monday, probably, especially at the end weeks of December.
This
depends
is
on the-
very voluntary.
Yeah.
So don't feel obligated. It's something that's supposed to make you feel better. Yeah. We're supposed to have 4 or 5 members that's supposed to join today and they couldn't make it. So yeah, it's totally fine. That's all.
Okay, Ken, then if there's nothing else, I think we are good to go for wrap up.